we go to Matthias and Michael in a bit. Matthias is a developer, a community expert since many years, working in DBA space. Michael, some of you have seen him yesterday already, one of our developer champions, building for Lightroom, Adobe Express, helping the community also with telemetry dashboards that you should check out on our Adobe Tech blog. They talk about how they integrate with the Blockly technology from Google. And what the Blockly technology is, you will see in a spotlight video from Taylor, and then over to Matthias and Michael directly. Have fun.
Hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm going to show you how to extend Express using drag and drop blocks. This is the Creative Coding add-on. It brings visual, block-based programming to Express add-ons. Users get access to an intuitive drag and drop interface where they can focus on the logic instead of the syntax. Once you've created a script, you can run it from the UI for the add-on and see the output of the script that you've created. Here we've just created this tangent star. These samples are included with the Creative Coding add-on by default when you add it. As you're creating scripts in the add-on, you can use those as individual blocks as part of other scripts. So in this script, we're taking the script to add a star that we just ran in the sample script, and we're adding multiple stars and doing some other custom logic in here. So here, when I run this next script, you'll see that now we've added an image, and in our document, we've got a whole field of stars. Creative Coding makes Express extensibility accessible to a much broader group of users and is a great way to learn about programming concepts. Create dynamic graphics, automate your creative workflows, and extend Express while learning about programming. Install the Creative Coding add-on today.
Thank you, Taylor. I'm Michael Scherotter.
I'm Matthias Möll.
And today we're going to talk about how we've added block-based coding to Creative Cloud applications. For Matthias is going to focus on today's creatives, but I'm going to focus on tomorrow's creative technologists. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've built and talk about opportunities here and see if you can have an idea of what you could do with something like Blockly. Blockly is a JavaScript framework. It's open source, created by Google. You may have, or your children may have used it if they've used Scratch, if they used things from code.org, if they've used the Lego programming environment, if they've used Autodesk Tinkercad, or even Microsoft's MakeCode tools with a variety of things like Minecraft. And really all it is code blocks that represent, or makes visual blocks that you can snap together that represent code, like you see in this example above. And you can embed this in any HTML page. And so any of the HTML-based extensibility in any of the Creative Cloud or even your own website could host a Blockly design surface. The fun thing is you can design your own blocks. So you have blocks that manage, looping or be able to console output or setting variables, but you also can create more sophisticated blocks, which what we're going to show you now. And these blocks can then generate code in whatever language you want. They've built a number of code generators in things like JavaScript or Python, but you could have it generate any kind of text code you want. And what we're going to show is there's both educational use cases and also commercial use cases. So who are we? Matthias?
Yeah, hi. I've got a background in computer science, and I founded my company Mamo World about 15 years ago. And since then, I develop plugins mostly for Premiere Pro and After Effects, also some other host applications like Audition. You can see here some of my more popular tools. And as Michael already said, what we want to cover today is my tool Automation Blocks, which uses Blockly to create these super intuitive and easy to use interfaces to automate effectively anything in After Effects and Premiere Pro. But before we go into details of this, Michael, you can say something about you.
Yeah, if you were here yesterday, you saw me talk a little bit about what I've done. I'm a kind of a polymath. I do art. I'm a founder. I created this gallerist site. I combine art and technology. And what drives me and what drove me to build this is I want to help people be creative with technology, help people be creative in combining technology and creativity to create new things. I've created a number of Adobe Express add-ons, one of which is this Creative Coding. And here I'm going to show you a little bit about what creative coding is. You saw a little bit in the video earlier, but basically, it opens when you start up creative coding. You have this workspace that you can assemble blocks, and if you see here, there are blocks that represent creating text, rectangles, ellipses, all the different things you can create programmatically with the Adobe Express. There are also a number of other things. As I create these blocks, JavaScript gets generated, which of course I can press copy and I can paste it into the sandbox in Adobe Express if I want to try something out. Some of the kind of blocks I can create are user interface blocks, like this number field or color slider, and those generate a user interface that you see here that you can use to have input for your script. Other pieces of things you can code with, for example, are input. I can have images or collections that I can use in my code, and then as you progress, there are a number of achievements that you can achieve, and then if you have accomplished all these achievements, you can get a certificate of completion that is generated by creative coding. So you look at this for how I want to make this next generation of creative technologists, somebody who loves to be creative and has found that if they have the superpower of coding, they can be super creative. So it's a free add-on for Adobe Express, and please give it a try. Today, the link is on here, but you can find it just by looking for creative coding, as Taylor showed earlier. So Matthias?
You go to the next slide? Right. So far, I think you've got already the idea that with Blockly, you can get rid of writing code, and instead you've got this easy-to-use system to create tools or programs without code and with these blocks instead. So one major learning I had when creating automation blocks was that it's not enough to just say, let's get rid of every single command and replace it by a block. Because if you think like a reasonably interesting tool might have 1,000 lines of code, it won't be more fun to transform this into 1,000 blocks. Nobody's going to use a tool that needs so many blocks. It doesn't make practical sense. So I think the key insight or the key thing that makes automation blocks so successful is that you can do very interesting thing with much fewer blocks. So if you replace 1,000 lines of code by just 10 blocks, it starts being actually a lot of fun for the developer. And here I've got a real life example. This block code you can see is a fully working example for Premiere Pro. And you can see this green block here loops over all clips of the active sequence, all video clips actually. And then the blue block nested inside of it adds details of these clips to a spreadsheet. So in detail, it adds the media path, the in point, and the out point. So this means with these just 5 blocks, you can effectively export all footage used in your active timeline together with the exact parts which we actually used there. And imagine creating a script for this. This would be much more than 5 lines of code, like dealing with a CSV spreadsheet parser, checking how many tracks maybe your video sequence has, and so on. So if you try to create your own systems with blocks, make sure to create those blocks at a high level of abstraction such that you can create really interesting things that are easy to use.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. So just to give you an idea of what it takes, the majority of time you'll spend in building one of these things, with these applications using Blockly, is figuring out what kind of blocks you want to create. And in this case, you could use blocks to configure systems. You can use it to automate a procedure or even things like prompt engineering. So here's a block that I've been working on that I'll be adding to creative coding for doing using a generative AI model to be able to generate images with a prompt. So you can think about Blockly has a developer tool, which is up here in the upper left. It's a web-based tool where I can specify what the inputs might be, whether that's going to be input from something else or even a drop down. Or even enter a text here. And so here the input might be just a prompt, and then you can specify whatever size or quality you want. And then you basically, it's up to you to decide what is the code that gets generated. And this is where you write the code to say, taking all these inputs, here is the code that I want to insert in JavaScript into the sandbox, so that when I build basically a script that says generate an image from a watercolor sketch in Granada and append that to an image container, this is actually a full code that will take an image from a prompt and put it onto a page in Adobe Express. So thinking about this creative process to thinking how to create these, that's where really one of the interesting aspects of working with Blockly is. Earlier this month, I went to the Blockly Summit, and two of the really key things that I took away from that any of the add-in developers for Express or any of the other add-in developers can look at is accessibility is super important. Blockly has focused in this latest version to add accessibility keyboard input. And the thing you find with something like keyboard input is if it makes it better for people who are visually impaired, it's going to make it better for everybody. A power user who wants to use keyboard shortcuts, that makes it a lot easier. And then also Microsoft, they did a talk about how they're using crowdsourced localization. So I know from my telemetry that people from 20 different countries are using creative coding. Many of these people are English language learners as well. So the idea of using a resource like crowdsourcing and Crowdin is a really good idea for an add-in developer to as a resource to make their application more accessible to people across the globe. Matthias?
Okay, yeah, so my call to action. If you want to automate stuff in After Effects or Premiere Pro and feel like this block-based system might be a good solution for some of the issues you have, please join our community. We discuss creating automation block scripts in the Adobe forum. This first QR code will bring you to more details about this. Also, we recommend freelancers to companies who want to build with automation blocks but don't have the capacity to develop the block scripts themselves. If you want to be featured on that page, start contributing to our community, talk to me, and we can see what we can do.
Thank you, Matthias. And lastly, the creative coding is a grassroots effort. We're looking for volunteers who want to be able to, who are interested in teaching a class, providing feedback, creating curriculum, helping to localize, or even to want to create new blocks. And so anybody who wants to give this a try to help join this team, right now it's just me and we've just started this. So please reach out if you are interested. This is something you're excited about, of teaching the next generation to code, creating this next generation of creative technologists who don't have to choose between being creative and being a coder. So give it a try, and thank you so much, and thanks to Matthias.
Thank you. Ingo, I think we cannot hear you.
1, 2, 3, test.
Now it's working.
Yeah, okay. We can hear you, Ingo.
Perfect. I used the wrong Blockly block at the moment for my microphone. Thanks for the presentation. I was fascinated by the Blockly technology, and when I saw the Adobe Express add-on, and even more surprised when I figured out that both of you are building on that. With that, we have done the first part of today, and we go into the break with Baldover. 20 minutes. We will be back 10 minutes after the full hour. See you in 20 minutes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Did make the first live. Did make the first live. Did make the first live.